Well, you got a lot to work with.
Yay!
It's shady today.
Hey guys, it's David here, and welcome to Hot Tuck Tapes, where I share my thoughts on RuPaul's Drag Race with an occasional guest. Say hello.
Hey, I'm back. It's Foster.
Spoiler alert, but once again, YL Acton, brand new, and a little disclaimer, neither of us have done drag, we're not drag experts, but we're big fans of the show, and we want to start a conversation with y'all on the interwebs.
Well, you've done drag.
Oh yeah, I have done drag. So but I don't consider myself a drag queen.
Yeah, neither of us are queens.
Yeah.
We just love queens. And we hope you do too.
Without further ado, let's get into Season 9, Episode 12, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Episode 12. We had a full season. This is already longer than all of Season 8.
That's fair.
It's true.
And yet it feels like it's shorter for some reason.
Well, it's because there haven't been any mini challenges. Well, like, very, very few. And
the episodes have been shorter.
Yeah.
Relatively.
You can feel how much shorter they are.
Right. And what was the title of this episode?
Category is.
We start off with our send-off to Alexis Michelle, and
Hi.
we're ready. I love that now it's following in tradition that Trinity is very ready. Like, every time somebody goes home, Trinity's like, it was their time to go, goodbye.
Well, it was more than past Alexis's time to go. And she left us with a wonderful quote that I'm sure you caught from Into the Woods.
Yep, wishes come true, not free.
I actually laughed out loud, and two people looked at me like I was crazy, because...
This only makes me wish more that she had put her Into the Woods lip sync in some form.
That's what
I
mean. It's a clear reference to herself and her brand.
I wonder if any of the queens caught that reference. Like, seeing the lipstick message. Do you think any of them would have known?
Sasha has a background in theater, but I think she said something like her drag is a conscious step away from who she was when she was a theater person. So she probably caught it and was as dismayed with it as maybe I was.
She was triggered. It was like,
it's just like, Alexis is still doing the most, and she's not even here.
Do you have anything to say about, well, like, Shay was like, this is the top 4 I was waiting for.
I don't believe that for a second. You know she clocked Valentina being in the top 4.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Maybe that's how she meant it, though. Maybe she was like,
this is the top 4 I wanted for me to win.
So we've got Michelle helloing into the workroom.
It's a time-honored tradition. It's always good to see Michelle not, extremely polished. Michelle has really stepped up her, look game at judges' table. And so it's nice to see Michelle, kind of in,
a ready-to-wear look, if you will.
Yeah, it's the skirt you buy at Saks after you see the runway show. It's that kind of skirt.
Does Michelle usually do the last, workroom?
Or somebody.
Okay, got it. For some reason, I didn't remember that, and I was like...
I feel like there was one with Michelle and Santino.
And it's always the last one of the season? Okay.
Well, because normally what happens in this episode is they film a music video.
Okay.
And that did not happen today.
No, it didn't.
So we have entered a new era, thanks to Read You, Wrote You from All Stars 2, that this is just kind of the format for top 4 now. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Well, it certainly cuts down on production costs. I'm assuming a good amount of the reason. They had a big enough success with Read You, Wrote You with a relatively... they're using the same stage. They're using, just putting on a track and doing a production like all the other major challenges, whereas I think music videos were probably demanding.
The problem is that it elevates different kinds of queens to the finish line. When you had music video, you had to give several looks and usually do some kind of acting thing, even if that gets cut from the video. And so that elevated, look queens and acting queens, whatever that means.
Right.
Whereas now, the challenge is really dancing. And can you imagine season 8 having this be the top 4 and Kimchi would not have made the top 3?
Well, I think
Chi Devane would have been in the top 3 and Kimchi would not have.
That's fair, actually. They can make it work without being a dancer per se. They just have to be a good live performer. Sasha, I thought, this is giving ahead a little, but I thought she did really well with the challenge, and we'll get there. But I like that this tests their ability to connect with an audience live. I think that's essential to being in the world of drag.
Right, and it is more relevant to actually doing drag. This is more related to what you would do on a daily basis. So.
Right. Doing a music video is like doing RuPaul drag, which is, not as typical.
But also pretending that any queen at any bar has to come out with this level of choreography is a little absurd.
That's very true. So we have the main challenge announced. Todrick Hall will be coaching them through. The category is like live performance. He's choreographing it. They're working in the recording studio.
This is what I've been waiting for from him. This is what his involvement on the show should be. This is Todrick in his element. He's very good at this. And he's kind of a bland judge, no offense.
When I heard Todrick would be doing choreography again, that's something he's done on the show, but the moments with him directing them in the studio were actually, some of his best moments in this episode. The first person in the studio was Shea Coulee, and she was spitting some very fast rap.
Yes, or trying to.
Yes.
She kind of stumbled quite a bit, and I was, preemptively a little worried for her. I was getting real flashbacks to season 1, when they were telling, I can't even remember who it was. It might have been Rebecca Glasscock. It's been a long time. But Caswell was recording with them in season 1 for the final 3, and they have to do a rap. And somebody was doing rap in like double time. And he was like, and they ran out of time. I think it was Rebecca Glasscock. And he was like, well, why don't you just do this half as fast? Even the final recording they went with, I felt like she was still tripping over her words a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little bit mumbled, and I think that some of the rhythms were cool, but some of the rhythms were just like...
When she said supermodel switch or whatever,
yeah,
that line didn't make any sense to me.
And it also felt like offbeat. Yeah, it was a weird rhythm.
Sorry, we need to slight tweak, fix this.
Just a little melodyne that rhythm. Make sure it's nice and...
Well, the thing is, too, is you can tell that this is the hands-off judging at work here, because they could have made this much better or given them advice to make this, like, listenable and good, but they wanted to let them run with their decisions.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the standard that Read You Wrote You was. Not sure if this is going to become, like, a fan favorite hit.
Yeah, no, Read You Wrote You was definitely better than this.
Yeah.
Both their actual live performance and the recorded version. Read You Wrote You is much better.
Who choreographed that? Was that also Todrick?
Yeah, I think it was, actually. I'm trying to remember.
He got himself a steady gig. Then we have the first segment for What's the Tea with Peppermint.
Yeah.
And this is when it became clear to me that this replaces the Tic Tac dinner or lunch, is it?
Yeah, at both. I think it's been both. Yeah.
And I actually am glad that they replaced that segment, because I thought that as the years were going on, the whole, like, Tic Tac dinner was becoming more and more dated, especially with like the prevalence of eating disorders and body image issues in the gay community. I remember the first time that I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a little, okay, like,
Don't joke about that.
Truly, like, maybe that was what made them change it. It was like Sasha Velour being so outspoken about her, probably.
It's been more than a season that they've been doing this, so it wasn't just Sasha.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did they do this last season?
They did this for sure in All Stars 2, and I think they did this last season too.
Why am I just now registering that they changed it?
She's not a super fan.
So Peppermint, I thought that her segment was good. She got a lot of time in this episode to speak about, being a trans woman in the drag community. And it's a difference that a lot of people who are not familiar with the drag community wouldn't necessarily think that there would be a conflict there. So I'm glad that this episode spent a good amount of time shedding light on that dissonance between those two communities.
I thought this was so important because it really speaks to how much we've been able to progress in the community itself. It's wonderful to hear that she was able to step out of this kind of negativity that she had been hearing from people in the drag community, which I'm not surprised about. Peppermint has been in the game for a very long time, so things were very different.
Right.
And for a long time, I think there really was a lot of animosity between trans women, trans people, and drag queens because they felt that there wasn't any place for overlap in a lot of the same way that a certain type of queen used to say that there were no place for bio queens or for women to experiment with drag. And I think it's wonderful that we're moving forward and that there is a real, not even just a tolerance, but there's a real place and an encouragement for this. A good handful of the queens who've been on the show have transitioned to after being on the show. And I think that underscores exactly what Peppermint went through. This is what I was kind of hoping she would talk about this season, and I was worried she would never have a chance to.
Yeah, it definitely was like a slow burn to this moment. But I'm glad that they gave her the spotlight. The timeline of her like coming out as trans in the drag community, I was a little confused because I thought that Peppermint, all the hype for her coming on this season was like, oh, it's a trans queen, like finally, and that was all very public. Right. So as she's talking about it in this episode, I'm wondering, was this really the moment that she decided, or was that earlier and she's just kind of placing RuPaul's Drag Race as a placeholder?
It's a little unclear. I don't know the timeline. The sense that I get is that she was out as a trans woman to her friends and maybe generally in public for a while before filming. But the other thing you have to understand is that the filming of this took place before we all knew who was cast on the show and who was hyped. So
it was like
just the fact that you know, so that alone is enough time that I think even the word got out. It's not like she went back into the closet as being a trans drag queen after filming the show. I
love the final exchange between her and Michelle says, you know, that's who you are, so just like go with it. And then Peppermint's like, that's who I am.
Right.
Just like...
That's the wonderful thing about Peppermint is I think, especially when you put yourself back into the situation of being on a show with these queens, all of those feelings, like worry, like will these queens accept me for being a trans woman, come back again. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why you saw her blossom as much as she did toward the end of this season, is because she was able to be comfortable with who she was and open to the other queens about it.
Then we get to Trinity in the studio, which was super cringy. This was like a Miss Fame moment for me. That's what I was like.
Yeah, I was surprised at how bad she was initially, and it just didn't get better. Yeah. She had a few problems. Her lyrics were not good.
It was just all referring to the plastic surgery thing, which, like, she has beat that horse to death throughout the season.
And that isn't her either. You know, I don't mean to be preachy about this, but, like, it's fine to embrace plastic surgery, get plastic surgery if you want. But that doesn't really say anything about the person that she is, you know? Yeah. She's kind of reducing herself to plastic surgery in that sense. So I wanted, like, more lyrical content. But as Shay said, she's not a writer, she's not a rapper, and she's not a singer. So... But the problem, she didn't understand, like, the contours of the challenge, I don't think. Because she could have been funny. She could have just done a comedy thing. So she could have had, like, a breathy voice. She could have done, like, Marilyn or, like, Anna Nicole Smith. She could have been... You know, these people seem very on brand for Trinity. And if she just had, like a weird, like, slow, like, seductive... anything like with jokey lines, that would have been funny.
It's probably hard when, especially like because she's not a musician, listening to this like sick beat that's supposed to be like fierce and whatever. And
Category is a relatively slow song,
but like it still has this kind of EDM-y kind of like.
I guess, but she can do it. Look at we're gonna reference Red You Wrote You all over this episode.
Right.
Look at Red You Wrote You again. Like. Katya's verse is probably the best one, and it doesn't even try to approach the actual format of the song.
That's true.
She just took her chance and she ran with it in her own direction, and that's what you should have done, Trinity. Because this was disappointing.
Womp womp. This was like the second moment that I felt, oh my gosh, maybe Trinity's not going to be in the top 3.
Which is ridiculous if you think about it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just the editing of this whole episode, she was the one who was projected, who got the losers edit, if any of them did.
Of the episode, yeah.
Yeah, the like beginning in the workroom, they're like, she's going to be making barnyard noises in the studio. I think, like, did Shay say that? Was that the, like...
I think it was Shay. Or no, it was Sasha.
Sasha, okay. Yeah. And, and then she's, like, struggling in the studio.
Someone should have followed up with Pet Sounds, because that would have been a better joke, if you ask me.
Pet Sounds?
Yeah, it's a Beach Boys album. Next is Sasha at the podcast, and she's talking mostly about her experiences with her mother and losing her mother, which I thought was touching, and it was good for her to have this time. I will say, I did clock her wearing 2 separate American Apparel chiffon button-ups in her flashback photos with her mother. Like, one is, like, the black see-through one, and one is, like, the really ugly, multicolored floral one that's, like, lavender and, like, all these muted florals. It was probably taken in, what, like, 2012 or something? I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
She still had some hair, so...
Right. Back when American Apparel was a thing.
Yeah, when they weren't bankrupt and alive.
I still have my purple hoodie, my Gabe Supporta hoodie. You know, the Cobra Starship purple hoodie club?
Yeah, of course.
Fueled by ramen. Yeah, that was my only American Apparel experience. I think I also had a black hoodie of the same kind. I like that they ended it on a nice note with her talking about, you know, that now her dad is very supportive of the drag thing and has become obsessed with drag. It reminds me of my own parents once I started getting into Drag Race and the drag community here. Now they're like, oh my gosh, we're all, you know, whatever.
The funny thing about how she seems to present her relationship with her parents is that they had more faith in her being a visual artist and a comic book artist than a drag queen as a professional career, and it's
it's not really, at this point in society, it's easier to make a living as a drag queen, I would say.
Once you see her.
Oh
yeah.
And then at the end, they cap it off with a wonderful, actual, real life, let me talk to you about Squarespace.
Why did Peppermint not get a squatty potty? Did they just give her one and they didn't get it on camera or something?
I guess they just didn't give one to Peppermint. Or maybe they edited that out because they were like, maybe Squatty Potty only paid for so much screen time, and so
they only paid for like 3 mentions.
Yeah, maybe. That's an actual thing that could have happened.
I'm surprised they didn't have them like Rue and Michelle lounging on like a Casper mattress with their bowl and branch sheet set, giving out Squatty Potty, talking to you about Squarespace.
I just was alive in this moment. It was so perfect.
Well, the fun thing is that the show has become such a like
parody of itself.
Yeah.
I wasn't too worried about Peppermint going into this challenge. I do like that once Todrick gave her the note to like, you know, commit to it more, she was actually giving straight up like Todrick drag rap studio voice. Yeah. If you've ever seen any of his music videos, it was very like, I feel like they could collaborate down the line. Have they before? The new version of Straight Out of Oz, Peppermint's one of the queens who does the runway. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I hope he's wrong.
Peppermint's very involved in YouTube though. She's doing like
she has a YouTube channel. I've watched a couple of them, and also Peppermint has recorded before, so I knew she would do well. She has an album out on iTunes, according to her. She said so on this.
Oh yeah, she did make sure to drop that.
I hope it's like a 2-song EP or something. But it's still.
There's also that telephone video parody that went viral like back in the day that she was Beyonce in.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't realize that was her.
I didn't know that either.
She killed it. I mean, we'll get to the actual performance, but she was. I liked her contribution.
So next was Shay on the podcast, right?
Yes, okay. And what was the eye sticker on her shirt? It looked like just a sticker.
Did she wear this shirt before in the workroom once? I'm trying to remember.
I cannot remember.
It looked oddly familiar, but I don't know if it was just from like seeing the preview for this episode the week before. I didn't love that shirt. I didn't love your shirt.
I didn't mind the shirt. I just was confused by the Illuminati sticker. Like it was because it didn't look like a patch that was sewn on it. It looked like a legit, just like plasticky.
I think
sticker.
It looked kind of like just a different fabric, like a panel sewn on top of it or something. But I just
go back and watch. It looks like I think it was a literal sticker.
As someone who wears weird clothes all the time,
you think it was part of the shirt?
I think it was just what it was, but I don't recognize it.
Okay.
She could have made it herself. I don't know.
The eyeball.
She talked about being a kid, and it was like, okay. And then she boom, and she was just like over very fast.
Yep, they definitely cut her podcast interview, the shortest.
Yeah.
Which I was fine with.
So much happened in this episode that, you know, it's fine to have a couple boring moments. It's like, okay, she was there, and then she wasn't.
Oh, you're going to be pissed off about what I have to say about Sasha.
I have a lot of things to say, and I think you might be wrong about how I feel.
Oh, okay. Well, we had Sasha in the studio with Todrick next, doing a spoken word, as she dubbed it. Basically a rap. Like, I don't know. If it's a spoken word, I'm expecting you're going to see me with them hands, which this was not. I felt like, both before and after Todrick's critique, that she was kind of like a poor man's Alaska doing this spoken word.
Okay, that's interesting.
It felt very like I'm rapping with a weird twist kind of thing.
I see kind of what you mean. You all know that I love Sasha, but this was incredibly disappointing to me. I did not like any of this. My expectations were set really high because, you know, she put out the song with the New York Girls, the Club Legend Art Theater, and her verse in that was amazing. And so I was like, okay, she's downplaying this for the camera, but she's going to go in and give like a really good rap like I know that she can do. And apparently she learned how to do that after being on the show because this was not good. Her lyrics were misguided. She was not making the most of the time. The pacing of her words, it did not work. It didn't make sense. Both Todrick and the producer, whose name I don't recall, something Allure.
Something like that.
Sasha Velour.
Sasha Velour.
Neither of them seemed really to care or want to.
That was the end of their workday. They were probably like, whatever.
So again, I think if they were actually producing someone and tasked to give something, they could have pushed her in a direction to make something a lot better.
Yeah.
We've seen that she can do this kind of challenge. She just really fucked this up. She did not. It didn't work.
I do think she made up for it a little bit in the performance.
I don't.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay. Then we have Trinity's podcast as the last of the podcast moments. I liked her little story about her grandfather finding wigs under the table.
Yeah, no, under towels. She said.
Under towels. I heard table. I can't understand the accent.
Yeah.
Under the hey, Laganja, are you there?
Yeah.
She talks about her grandmother and how
the last thing she said to her was that she hated her.
Yeah. And she regretted that.
I think I mean, it's hard for me to say this to someone, but you really need to kind of let these things go. I don't think that you should ever regret calling a homophobe out for what they say and do, even if they're your family. And it's sad if they die before you get a chance to rectify that, but they made that choice.
I did appreciate Ru handling this as only Ru could by being like, now I'm the grandma, I'm just gonna forgive you. Like,
I love Trinity humoring her and saying she sounded exactly like Ru, because I doubt that she did.
And then she got a squatty potty, so, you know, there you go.
Did she? Okay, because this is what I wanted to make sure. I know Peppermint didn't get a squatty potty, but did Trinity?
Sasha and Shay definitely got squatty potties. Did... I'm pretty sure Trinity did too.
Yeah, maybe.
Let us know in the comments. Please crack the potty squatties.
It's very important.
So then we get into the choreography rehearsal, and I really like the way that this is set up, where they have one queen going through it and the other three just like sitting there
sitting and judging them. Yes. I wish that the queens there had like embraced that more and just been like twirling their non-existent hair and like yeah, that's what I wish they would have done.
We still got good comments from the queen sitting in the background.
Yes, we did.
Peppermint killed it in the rehearsals.
She did. She was really good.
I love that, and they used this shot for the promo of this episode too. That like shot of her in the back, just like giving some shoulders and eyes, the light, like the downlighting, and you can see the rehearsal sweat. It's like very fierce.
Yeah.
She was like giving a lot of face in the rehearsals too, and
she sold the attitude. I didn't quite get why she was picked up at the beginning. It kind of killed the momentum.
Yeah, I agree.
But whatever, Todrick, you choreographed. I couldn't choreograph this, so. Todrick acknowledges right at the beginning that his choreography for these girls is a sliding scale, so that he's going to give harder choreography to the girls he knows can dance more. And you see this in the practice, in the rehearsal, and then not in the final performance.
I kind of called him on this as bullshit, because once he got to Sasha, he's giving her a lot of like complicated choreography. He does check in with her and is like, is this okay with you? If it's not, please let me know.
And Sasha answered this question better than anyone on the show. This is a challenge, but it's one that I want to rise to. That's really good for camera. I don't think she rose to it. I think she really should have brought it down like a rung or two.
Yeah, I was worried when she said that in the rehearsal, because I was like, all right, girl, like, I hope that you can get it together. The duck walk and the like little faux death drop definitely felt like, okay, here's an 8 count of choreography,
right,
so that we can have a moment of struggling in the rehearsal. It felt very put in there. Trinity was, listen, from her lip sync against nobody, essentially. I thought that Trinity would really kill the dancing.
Yes, I did too.
The moments in rehearsal, like, you just see that arm supposed to be horizontal, sagging a bit, and it's like, that is not the right angle. Get the arm up.
I think they played up how bad she did in the edit that was shown on TV.
Yeah.
But she didn't do good. This is a sliding scale of choreography. Her choreo was more difficult, I think, frankly, in a way, than Shay's. Where, you know, like, you have to have the physical ability to do a triple pirouette, but if you can do that, it's not really that hard for you to learn.
Right.
as choreography as opposed to someone doing all these arm movements, you know?
Now that we're talking about this triple pirouette thing, let me just say, like, it wasn't a good triple pirouette.
No.
Not
especially
to be too picky.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Especially the one on the actual performance, but also she was in heels, so I'm not really going to clock her for that.
And I'm not, I mean, I cannot do
also,
triple pirouettes.
I can't dance at all.
We wouldn't be so picky about it if they hadn't made such a big deal out of the triple pirouette. Like, it had its own little moment. The foot was not connected to the inside of the knee.
Oh,
there was
you're really
not
going.
spotting in sight.
Oh.
And I'm just saying, listen, if you're going to be like, I can do this triple pirouette, then actually do it.
I thought it was impressive enough. However, I will say when I rewatched this episode, I kept going back and looking to see if she actually did spin three times, which I think she did, but it just looked odd on camera.
It's all like cut together.
Yeah,
it's definitely tough. I like that. Also, they have, because the other queens were like very jaded about the triple pirouette situation rehearsal.
For Shay.
I love that Trinity said that.
Yeah.
I was so with her. I was like, that is me right now.
If you ask me, that's the moment where she should win the season.
Right.
Sasha can no longer win. And I sound so bitter. I like Shay. Don't get me wrong. I like Shea Coulee. And I've told you this before, but I think preseason and even just now, she's the queen who probably most deserves to win. She just, in my opinion, doesn't deserve to have won based on what she actually did on the show.
Right.
She can give so much more than what she did on the show, and it felt like she wasn't being challenged in the same way that a lot of the other girls were, and she just kind of, you know, sailed through the challenges, picked up some wins. After they make that comment, they show her nailing this choreo with all the dancer boys, right? You know, the one, and she turns around. And where was that in her performance? She did not do that on stage. It was totally cut out.
I have to go back and watch the rehearsal.
No. So that whole thing, she did it really well. It was impressive. She did not do it on stage. It was replaced with the dancer boys putting like a diamond shape of baseball bats around her face and
that
shit.
moment, that was stolen from Smash, by the way. Hey, did you ever watch Smash?
No.
That was the American pastime. Anybody who'd watched the show knows. They made that baseball diamond, and she goes, a baseball diamond.
So it's bad choreo too, but that's what I'm saying. This is not a sliding scale of choreography. You made it look like she had hard choreography in the rehearsal, and then didn't actually have her do it and replaced it with something easy that wasn't on camera for the actual performance.
It could have been included and then they just cut it out in post, maybe?
No, because it matched the whole song. Like, where would they have cut that out from the song?
They cut out the, like, at the end when they were each doing, like, the choreography in pairs, then they're suddenly in the group together. Like, they cut bars from it.
There was not enough time for her to do all of that. They didn't cut it. She just did not do it on stage. Shay has the most dancing experience of anyone, so if you're actually going to challenge them at their own skill level, she should have had to do that choreography for the main challenge, and she did not. If you had done that in the challenge, I would be excited about you, and I'd be saying, yes, you deserve to win. You should win. Good for you, Shay. But again, you don't ever have to deliver in any challenge. And just do it at your own pace.
Oh my gosh.
She's getting her degree at her own pace. She's studying at home, online courses.
Did you like, though, how, like, the three queens are behind her for the double pirouette, and you can just, like, hear them thinking, like, oh, this bitch, like, in the actual blocking, and then they just come down stage?
Yes.
I can't. Todrick was shady putting them behind her for that moment after all that drama. Just a note about the backup dancers, that they were all just feeling themselves. I just, like...
Truly. I also, my note about the backup dancers is that I hated this, like, really cheap, like, slick it up harness shit that they were wearing.
Yeah, at this point,
cute.
I took it
They
as...
could have just been shirtless.
Watching the backup dancers was the moment I realized that they were, like, the Gaga hands. I don't know if you caught...
Oh. When did they... Where was this?
I don't know. They do the, like... They also do those hands in work, bitch. I don't know if all the references in this choreography were intentional, but there were definitely a good handful of them. So then we get into the final presentation and final runway. We have Ru coming down stage in the promo look, which we all saw when season 9 was announced.
In her Naomi Smalls from the book ball challenge.
Basically. I will say it photographs better than it moves. Do you agree with this?
I didn't mind it. I kind of liked the, like, weird way that it moves.
The shaking. It looked flimsy. I don't know.
I like that.
Okay.
Because you can tell that it's still well made structurally, but I like that it has that, like, whispery movement.
I will say the photos looked very retouched by comparison.
Well, they certainly were.
I mean, it looked like it was like an icicle sharp diamond.
It looked very sharp in the photos. Yeah, it looked like almost metallic.
Once I got a chance to like look at Ru's makeup on TV versus the like promo images, I kind of preferred Ru's face for this episode in the tea scenes than the runway.
Do you think it was because she was washed out by the like purple lighting?
Purple lighting, maybe. Because I do feel like Raven has been stepping it up these past few episodes with
she has.
The makeup.
Delta needs to move out.
Yeah, the hairline was really hard on this wig. I didn't understand because it used to be like you don't know where Ru's hairline is. You cannot clock a
I didn't mind the whole like sculptural like sweepy element, but that's exactly right. It's the hairline that really bothered me.
So then we have the final performance of no, it's not Ready
Wrote You.
Basically, no, category is, and Peppermint kills it as we expected she would.
She did very good.
Her vocal was mixed really low for some reason. I don't know why it was like so quiet, and the other girls were not affected by this as much. So like production, get it together.
I think I overall said I gave her like an 8 out of 10 for what she did.
Performance overall.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think she also got the highest score of anyone.
That's fair. They cut to her for all of the good moments of face. She's got like where she turned around, she gives a little like tongue flick or whatever was going on. I was more impressed with Sasha's performance than you were, I guess. I liked her entrance crawling on stage. I felt
it was
like
an okay idea.
Yeah, okay, all right. How do you think it could have been improved?
If she had immediately gone into some choreography after that. It seemed like she got up kind of awkwardly and then had to come like down stage before she really did anything, and that was to be picked up by some people and put on a chair.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
That all was like kind of like dead air.
I like the moment where she like screams and then gets picked up and they hold her.
Oh, and she has her like face thing.
Yeah.
I liked that.
So
I liked that.
But you didn't like the bar mitzvah chairs.
I hated this choreography. I didn't like her Velma Kelly dress. And
if Sally Bowles released Art Pop, that's exactly what I thought it was.
Okay.
The makeup, the one glove, the little red flower.
I just think that Sasha was kind of not served by Todrick here.
Okay. It did seem in the rehearsals like there was a disconnect. Like he didn't know exactly what her level of ability was.
Right.
And maybe that was Sasha's fault for puffing herself up to be able to handle more. Right. Like we were talking about, that she wanted to have a good attitude and take on the challenge. But this was a moment she could have been more transparent about it.
Right. The problem was she needed to be more honest and say, I would rather you give me more choreography to learn that is less difficult than to try and impress the judges with one little bit of difficult choreography and then I have nothing.
Yeah.
Which is what her performance turned into thereafter, because half of it was her being picked up by men and 25% of it was awkwardly crawling on stage. So that's the problem, is I think Sasha gave the right answer for what she should have done in that situation, but it really didn't serve her in the challenge. That
last little chunk of duck walking and whatever the death drop thing was probably what most of the rehearsal time was spent on, which is why the rest of it was so general. And then in the final edit, if you watch really closely, she does the death drop after the other dancers, but they edited it to be on beat by cutting to a close-up. So I just feel overall she was kind of set up to fail by that. It should have been after a while trying to get it and not getting it, she should have just been let's drop this, because the 8 count didn't even work.
It's just so sad. It's just so sad. The other thing, they had to do the same makeup look for both category is and their runway afterwards, and I don't think Sasha's makeup look worked for either of those looks. It worked more for her runway look after this.
Really? I thought it worked more for the performance. We have very conflicting opinions about this. Because with the whole crazy, calling on stage 5, I felt
right, okay, I'll give you that. If she had worn a different look completely and with her weird ass vocal verse that she did, if she had been some kind of weird monster with elaborate makeup and all of this stuff, then maybe she could have sold that in that way. And so even if she didn't have choreo, she could have done her clawy posing that she likes to do. So that's why I'm really mad that they didn't let them do 2 makeup looks this episode. Sasha would have been the most served by it, I think.
I like the color blocking. I thought that the red and the green were nice complementary colors.
Oh, you mean of the 2 looks?
No, of the performance look. I wasn't a fan of
her performance look, though. It was like a black dress and a white glove and a green glove, right?
Yeah, and then the red flower.
No, the red flower was on her runway look.
She also had a little...
Did she?
She had a little flower on her performance look, I think.
I didn't notice that.
I'm not sure
if it was... a tiny
little
corsage or something?
Yeah, it might have been pink. I'm not sure if it was red. I know that it was in contrast with the green glove.
I just didn't like it.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Sasha's done much better.
So Trinity comes out from the basement of the stage, the pit orchestra, if you will, with a lot of reverb, a lot of vocal effects. Production was trying their darndest.
Really? I didn't even catch that.
Oh yeah, she's like whispering from all around. It's like, it's very...
This was bad.
Okay.
Trinity did this, and I was like, wow, they could eliminate either of them. And not Peppermint. Her verse was bad, as we discussed earlier. I hated this tacky look.
The look was really bare.
Oh, she loves this like leopard print. Oh, and the cutout and this and that. The problem I have with Trinity is that her own taste level seems to be extremely low. But when she's challenged to do something outside of herself, she's great. Mm-hmm. She does wonderful at that. So I think she should be on a reality competition show for the rest of her life. Because I hate the clothes that she seems to want to wear, and I love what she comes up with when it's like something wacky thrown at her.
I will say, when Trinity was performing, this was another moment. I feel like she got the loser's edit of the episode. The judges' reactions were not very amused.
Well, because she messed up some of her own
lyrics,
syncing to her own lyrics. Yeah,
I didn't catch that.
She stumbled a bit.
Oh,
and honestly, I think also Shay did in one place, but you could barely notice it. Mm-hmm. I don't think Pepper did, and I don't think Sasha did. But Trinity really did, and they like cut to Ru's face, and I was like, oh, she noticed it too.
I thought it was just the like awkward stepping over the dancers moment, because that's when they're like cutting back and forth, and I thought that bit of choreography was kind of awkward.
Her choreography, was weird. I liked her being like on a bed of men.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was like it.
I thought the armography, the quick armography, was actually
she shook her butt too. That was good, but she did that before in a lip sync. But no, it was so good. It's not a reason not to like it. But
right.
I expected more of Trinity because she's a dancer, and I was hoping she would make up for her terrible recording session.
Yeah, none of this was as impressive as her lip sync moment.
It was shocking to me actually that she did this poorly. What are you doing with it?
The windmill arm. She was like doing the like.
Oh, did
Trinity's choreography.
Oh, yeah.
Her windmill arms. Or like.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's how we're describing it. Okay, yeah, she did it better in the real thing.
Yes, she improved. Sure. The arm was still sagging, but it was so quick that you could barely know.
It was still a stupid. What dance move is coming next? I don't know, Todrick. A good one? We are really getting into it. This is going to be so long. Oh my god.
Okay, so lastly we have Shea Coulee.
Yeah.
She did well. You mentioned that she messed up a bit of her lip sync, but
her verse was really good though. Mm-hmm. I didn't love this look, but I didn't hate it.
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty basic. I mean, I also didn't...
It was basic adjacent.
At this point, we're like, okay, she's wearing another leotard. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like the orange thirsty wig.
She needed to wear something with legs so that she could do her choreography.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the other unfair thing that I think about this, if you think about it. Like, some of these girls were in, like, a full dress. Sasha... Maybe to cover up the fact that they can't move. I don't know. As I said before, the more difficult part of her choreography was nowhere to be found in her performance. Mm-hmm. And it was replaced with just her pit crew men framing her face.
A baseball diamond is a girl's best friend. That's what she...
All right, she's in a league of her own.
You have to watch Smash. You have to watch Smash.
Okay. Personally, I think Pepper did better, but they're basically on the same level.
Yeah, I thought that Peppermint let her personality shine through her performance a little bit more.
Which is what I would have loved to see from Shay.
I think that, like, Shay is a great performer, don't get me wrong, but the, like, fierceness that she communicates overpowers a sort of, like, unique personality. She's so focused on, like, hitting it and, like, being powerful.
Yeah, I guess.
And I don't feel like she's as charismatic as a performer like Peppermint.
Well, I agree with that, I guess, in a sense. But I think if Shay wants to really do this thing with her baseball bat and be fierce and whatever, sell that more in the face. Yeah. I think is what was missing.
I did like the moment where she just like drops the bat and the guy catches it and she doesn't even like look to see if he caught it. She's just like, he's gonna drop it and I'm gonna go into it. Like she was she hit all her marks. Like this is what she does. So I'll hand it to her.
Overall, though, I think that this was worse than Red You Wrote You.
Oh, yeah.
Far. And it's interesting because I watched this in the bar, and 2 whiskeys deep, I was like, I swept up in everyone else's opinion that this was better than Red You Wrote You. But
that never crossed my mind.
if you watch it back with sober eyes, like, there is no question.
No. I do hope that they continue this trend, though, because I like it better than the music video. I don't want them to think, like, oh, if this is not as viral as Red You Wrote You, then we're going to stop.
I want music videos back.
Really?
Do them both. Why not both?
So we have their final runway, final 4 eleganza extravaganza. I would say that this was not as extravaganza as I would have hoped across the board.
But they all, I think, know that they don't have to really try here, because in the past they just eliminate whoever they want based on the challenge, not at all based on this look.
The first out on the runway was Peppermint.
I didn't care for this dress.
I did not either.
You could see multiple levels of the understructure, like the hoop skirt.
Yeah.
And it looked like that one dress where Gia Gunn wore to her reunion, where it literally looked like a ring of a hula hoop at the bottom, because it was.
Exactly. If it had been given another layer at the bottom, some sort of volume, or even if it had been like longer, because it was like floating above the floor, you could just see the caging around.
And the fabric wasn't great either, and that's what the problem was.
Pretty cheap.
And I didn't love the brocade or the detailing on it either.
So Sasha was next. You've already talked a bit about her last look.
I didn't love the dress. I didn't like the nude shoe with it. Her crown looked flimsy and floppy.
Yeah, the crown was the first thing I noticed, and it was a full circle moment, but it was not as good as her entrance crown, I don't think. I
think it was a literal symbol of her chances of winning a crown falling apart in front of her.
I liked the nude shoe. I thought that the stockings with the shoe were a nice touch. You didn't like it?
I didn't like it.
I felt like it contrasted with the dress nice.
Everything was so monotone that needed to also be tone on tone for me.
So you wanted red?
Like a pink or red.
Okay, that's fair. I will say the fabric for the dress looked like a nice, quality fabric, like beaded or whatever it was.
To me, that looks like one of those fabrics that's expensive for no reason, and it's not really as nice as the price of it. This is instructive of where fashion and, like, glamorous diverge, and when we talk about queens, we need to start using our words in different ways, because this is very not fashion.
Right.
Because this textile is kind of gross.
Okay.
But I'm sure it's expensive, so I'll give you glamorous. I just didn't love it, and I think the problem is she knew, in a sense, that she didn't need to really deliver a look for this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's wrong, because I think she really needed to deliver a great look, because, to be frank, she was really in danger of going home, even though she didn't.
My biggest issue, although I loved the fabric, was just that the dress wasn't shapely. Like, I didn't think that it was tailored to her body enough.
Sasha doesn't do a lot of padding or anything, though.
Right.
So
well, that makes it even more important to tailor the dress well. She felt
I didn't
very...
find it loose. It was just, like, very...
Yeah, it was like a straight, like, kind of boxy.
Let's move on to Shay's look, because I have a lot to say about Shay's look.
Oof.
What did you notice first about Shay's look? What immediately jumped out at you and didn't look any kind of right at all?
That the shoulder thing and the corset were not matched. Like, they looked disjointed. Is how
that's not my.
The wig was the same as.
Not even that. Okay, we're gonna talk about all
the
of
boots.
these things. The boots.
The boots were bad. I also
wait. Did you say boots?
The boobs also.
Yes.
Yeah. She should have just painted them on.
This is the first
stockings coming out.
You could not look away from these weird, floppy, squishy boobs in this cutout of this mock Balmain thing. I didn't like really anything about this. I'm sorry, Shay. I really didn't. I did not like the return of Bae Coulee's wig.
Right,
but actually styled well and not in her face. I don't like Balmain. It's one of those things that's like expensive and tacky, if you ask me. It's like very Kim Kardashian.
Beyonce, yeah. How many times did they say Beyonce in this
episode? Because it's that, but Beyonce wouldn't have this like weird blue hair or the ugly boot.
If she had something simpler on the top, maybe like definitely a bit of white to balance out the white detailing on the corset. I don't know whether that would have been the same kind of shoulder piece or maybe like some structural shoulder kind of something.
I would have gone back to the drawing board. Totally different look.
Really?
I don't think she needed to wear this blue.
The blue
First
wig.
of all, she's being very repetitive in like the vibe of her wigs.
Mm-hmm.
where if she wanted to wear this look, I would have worn it with like some really short black hair.
Okay.
Kind of like the wig she wore for her rainbow dress last week.
Yes, except that was also blue.
No, it was like lavender or something. But I would have done like that kind of cut, just in black, like a statement earring, that same gross Balmain thing, and then I don't
with the top piece too.
Sure, do that.
Didn't you think they?
But then like paint your breasts and don't have this like weird floppy thing. Take that out.
And no black, those.
Or
cheap,
just like a real
black
breastplate. I don't know if this was like some kind of extremely cheap like faux breast padding. Don't do that. Like a real breastplate would have been fine. And then for like a shoe, I don't know what kind of shoe you would put with this look though. It would have to be some kind of like gunmetal or like a silvery pump.
Mm-hmm.
That all would have been a lot better than what you did, Shay.
The black thigh high boots that was just like the cherry on top because they looked so basic. Lastly, we have Trinity, and I think that as far as runway looks go, she was the best dressed of the four. Not that the standard was set very high. I think they were all kind of disappointing, but I really liked the flattened asymmetrical hair to balance out the asymmetrical dress. I thought her makeup looked beautiful, the spider lashes and all. And I felt like she wore it really well and modeled it as a pageant queen would. So it was nice to see Trinity in her element.
I thought her face looked so much like Theda Bara. What it was is that her wig was very low on her face and there was this bang, so it had a shadow. And the shadow, like in this part of her face, like mid-brow to like eye, really made that eye makeup look a lot like Theda Bara. It almost felt like a different makeup look even though it wasn't. But this is the thing about styling, is I really did not like it with her first wig and outfit. The outfit was so distracting I didn't even really notice it, but I didn't like it with that hair.
Yeah, that's fair.
And this really opened it up in a way by darkening it.
I think that she clearly did this makeup for the final runway look versus the performance look.
I think so too.
Whereas I think that maybe Sasha might have done her makeup for the performance versus for the final runway.
But I hated this dress. I really hated the dress. I didn't like it. It's one of these like cheap looking nude illusion that shows all of this. And it just felt like bad pageant. And I know she said she wanted to show pageant because she says she's a pageant queen and then didn't show it on the competition. I think she should have just kept not showing that because...
I didn't think I did clock that the dress was sequins, and I would have rather a gown like this be beaded or something that looks a little bit more expensive.
I think she did good from a styling perspective because like a nude tone dress really works with this hair and makeup look. Mm-hmm. So I get that. I just didn't like this dress. I wish she had like even if you want to do this like nude illusion thing, just like do a really good, like a shimmery nude illusion dress with like, or like something with a lot of fringe, or like, I would have liked that more.
Weepy speeches. These are the weepy speeches that come next. This is where Ru holds up a picture of them as a kid. I think that Peppermint's was probably the one that was most important of the four. Yeah,
I don't have a whole lot to comment on these. I do think it was really respectful that, you know, normally they say, they look at your little self, what would you say to your 4-year-old self, and they say your boy name, you know. So I thought it was really respectful that they changed the language from the formulaic way that they do this and just said, what would you say to your 4-year-old self? I thought that was really respectful to Peppermint. Other than that, my only real commentary is when they laughed at Sasha and especially Trinity's baby pictures, because Trinity had her like 8-year-old baby glamour shots photo,
like that Walmart studio look.
And her
track jacket.
Yeah.
Then we get to Michelle with a brilliant idea to spell C-U-N-T with the different queens. It was more convincing than one would expect. Like she supported her points for each of the letters with each of the queens, and this was a moment where I was like, oh, okay, they're probably going to keep all four. I think that this was a little bit of a giveaway that they weren't going to eliminate anybody.
It was kind of. I didn't like this. I thought it was a little tacky.
They were like conveniently in the order also.
Right. Well, they clearly chose their runway order based on
this speech. Yeah, this was definitely a moment that they were building up to. The speeches that followed about why they should win, whether they were edited to be so or they were actually delivered in this way, very clearly matched the letter they were assigned. If you go back and listen, it's like, you know, Peppermint's talking about being connected to the community and, like, you know, bringing people from outside the community, being very charismatic. Sasha talks about being the queen of the future, being very unique. Shay talks about how she stumbled more times than anyone else on the show.
Yeah, what was that? I think what she meant to say, what she was trying to say is, although I may have stumbled, comma, more than the other girls, I succeeded at all the challenges. I think that's what she was trying to say.
Okay, but it sounded
like she said, I stumbled more than all the other girls. I succeeded more than all of them too, because she added the clause at the end of it also.
Yeah, okay, I can understand maybe the delivery was...
Or maybe she just really wants us to think that she stumbled more than everyone else.
After she got assigned that nerve letter, she was like, I need to play up this storyline. They have the music behind her being like this badass, like, you know, I've persevered kind of thing. And then lastly, they have Trinity giving, like, the talent speech, being like, I was obsessed with drag, I taught myself all of this, and I've worked really hard. So, not sure if that's something that they finagled in post, or if these queens were like, oh, I have to speak to my letter. I have to speak to what Michelle assigned me.
I didn't notice that, but now that you say it, I kind of see it.
After their speeches, I felt like Peppermint was, once again, not going to make the top three. Just after, for some reason, I had that vibe.
That's interesting. You did?
Yeah, I don't know
felt
why.
At this point, like, if they were going to cut someone, it was either Sasha or Trinity, which is shocking.
Yeah, that is... I think that what it was like, after Michelle assigned them their letters, I was really digging deep into these letter assignments. But if they're going to choose a queen, I think that charisma would be the most of a repeat after Bob the Drag Queen winning last season. Because that was Bob's big thing, was being like a queen of the people. So
but she had talent too. She was funny.
That's true.
I see her as more of a talent queen than anything else, because she sure can't serve a look.
But that's part of talent. If you think about, like, talent, it's like...
That's a different talent. It's a talent that Bob doesn't have.
So, but Bob's talent is Bob's charisma. Bob's ability
I think Bob's talent is comedy. That's not...
That relies on charisma.
No, I mean, you can benefit from it, but they're different. They're different things.
Anyway, for that reason, I thought that Peppermint would be the queen to go. I think that this whole thing had us trying to figure out which of these elements was the least important.
Yeah. Well, I think beyond that, I mean, Peppermint on paper should have gone home here.
Yes.
She had only won one challenge. She'd been in the bottom always.
Then we have the final four lip sync, which is always awkward.
Yeah, it's always stupid.
I don't understand why they do this exactly.
It grew out of, because before they would, like, back forever ago, they'd actually lip sync for between the last two to do one. You know, Raven and Tyra had lip sync. Season 5, Jinx and Detox had to lip sync to get into the top 3.
Okay.
And then after that, they just had a ceremonial lip sync for no purpose, and then cut whoever they want, even if they did better in the lip sync. Kennedy Davenport.
The 4 lip sync's always awkward. Trinity and Shay are, like, using the hell out of the runway, and then Sasha and Peppermint were just, like, chilling downstage. They clump up on different sides of the stage. I don't know.
Nobody really did anything more than anybody else. It was just whatever. And then I was expecting him just to say, you know, okay, Peppermint go home, or Sasha go home. So
now it is supposedly up to the fans to determine who's going to win.
Is it ever really?
Right. I love that Ru says, now it's up to you guys. Hashtag, you know, whoever you want to win.
So I hope everyone out there with me continues demolishing hashtag Team Sasha.
I am respectfully hashtag Team Trinity.
As long as you don't tweet, you know, hashtag Team Valentina, I really don't care. Just don't do that. That's stupid. It's been a few weeks. Stop it.
Neither of us had, like, many notes on Untucked. It was pretty uneventful.
Yeah.
They also did the runway a little bit in this Untucked, which has become kind of like a tradition.
Yeah. Did Bob invent this, or did the producers tell them to do it, and now they just want them to do it all?
They had, like, something like that in season 7 too, though, didn't they?
Did they? Where they did a runway?
Where they, like, all did some sort of a, I don't know. I remember vaguely some kind of group.
But yeah.
Thing.
Shay did the best, actually. She just did some goofy dance moves. The rest of them were trying to recreate their runway, and it's like, we just saw this.
Yep, that's true.
But Shay comes out and she just does some random ass dance.
Like a little...
Yeah.
Ashley Simpson SNL lip sync.
She should have actually done that on the runway.
I would live.
That's a personality we want from you, Shay.
Other than that, it was pretty, like, RuPaul's Best Friend was boring. It wasn't an eventful encore. As always, let us know what you guys thought of this episode and this review, and put whose hashtag team you are on in the comments.
Yeah.
And
I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, I want to know who you guys are rooting for the crown. I'm not sure if the finale is going to be next week or the week after next week. It said like reunion episode, but it looked like it was a clip show.
Very confusing.
So we'll we'll let you know about the finale when it happens.
And when you're voting in the comments, vote for who you actually want, not just who you think is going to win.
And also put who you would like to win for Miss Congeniality. I know that that's definitely a big mystery. Who's going to win that one?
I wonder.
Those leaks of the votes from World of Wonder didn't tell us anything.
That was hilarious. She was at like 52% or something.
I love Alexis Michelle, 0. I can't. That's all we've got.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Now everybody seems to be just fine, circling a line, but I just want somebody to call mine, a little romantic with candles on the side, hearing you giggle, heavily breathe down your spine. Now I've gone through the chapters, the pages, and the scenes, but nobody ever completing this thing.